Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to try to finish up the 66 motor 289, get it finished sanding and grinding and get all the way down to the bare metal hopefully, and then try to get it primed and painted and see what we can get done. So I think I'm going to do a little sandblasting today. I'm going to have these pulleys, fan belt stuff. I'm going to go ahead and put them in the blaster, and I'll try to get some video of me blasting them. I'm not sure how well I'll be able to see it through the glass, but I'm going to blast that and the old smog pump bracket oil pan, and then some brackets. I think that one bracket off the alternator. I think that's about it really on the sandblasting in the cabinet anyway. And I still got more cleaning to do on the engine, get more paint off. I'm gonna try this little brush I've got here. I'll try that later. And then I've also got to get the car out, and I'm gonna try to pressure wash a bunch of the grease and stuff off in there and let it be drying until after I get the engine painted.
Hey guys, Andy here back in the editing office. And now there's no sound or anything for these sandblasting clips, but I don't want to rob you guys of the experience of actually being there, so I'm going to try my best to replicate it based off of what I know so far from millions and millions of hours of watching Dad do this.
Two hours later. 6 hours later.
Here's where I am so far on this pulley. There's the different colors of paint that are on there. I guess the red was from overspray when they painted the car at one point, and the blue is probably overspray when they painted the engine at one point, unless they had this pulley blue originally. I need to look up in the book and see what this is supposed to be. I thought they were supposed to be black, but I'll check some more and find out. I just thought that was interesting in the different colors. Okay, while I'm taking a break from sandblasting, is I'm gonna go ahead and strip down this engine bay. I've got a pressure washer here, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the wiring, anything that needs to be off, so I can get it cleaner. I'll go ahead and take off voltage regulator down there, and just try to get all the wires off of it. So anything that I can get off that I won't have to tape when I get ready to paint, the better. So. I think this thing is stripped enough to pressure wash it. I got everything worried about getting water in, taped up, or put bags over. So I'm gonna pull it out and wash away. So here it is after it's been washed, and I went ahead and had to wash the whole rest of the thing because I blew grease all over everything. So the grease is, almost all the grease is gone. That's kind of a bad area back in there. I have to do a lot of scraping, and it's just got a lot of bubbled up paint because at one time there must have been a brake fluid leak, and man, you know how that eats up paint. So it's going to take some elbow grease back there. Everything else is pretty clean. It's gonna be a lot of scuffing and just getting everything smooth for paint. This area right here, somebody has patched that in a bad way underneath the battery box. So I guess I'm probably going to grind that off and see what's underneath it and try to fix it right since I'm this far. So that'll take some time. Other than that, that part's finished. Check it out. Here's the harmonic balancer off the 66, original Ford one. And all these years I've been setting the timing on those things. I thought those lines were in 2-degree increments. Look at that. 3, 6, 9, 12. There's top dead center. There's so much paint and gunk on it. I always just thought they were 2 degrees, so I've always been setting my timing off a little bit. So, learned something tonight. Working on this battery tray, it kind of reminds me of what's the difference between working on old cars and new cars. Those cars are just wrecked and they're clean and neat. You just take apart the bad pieces that are bent, take them off and put new pieces on just to replace it, and you got a car that's all clean and neat and new. Working on old cars, this is what you run into. Okay, you take a part off and it's rusty. Like, look how crusty this thing is. So you've got to take it off, sandblast it, paint it, pretty much restore each individual part and then put it all back together to get a nice car. So it just takes so much longer. You got all these little pieces and parts, which you don't usually have that much stuff on a new car that you're rebuilding. And then anything that just doesn't look right, like I had to sandblast every little piece. I'll have to go through and wire brush this alternator and get it all looking right. It just reminds me, that's kind of where my background is in old cars. The first car I ever bought was a 66 Triumph Spitfire. This piece right here is all that's left of it. I saved it because I was the most proud of that spot. That's the very front nose of the hood. And that's what it looked like when I got it. It was just beat to death, smashed. I cut it out and fabricated a new piece of metal to match that and welded it back in. And when it got done, you could not tell that it had ever been wrecked. It was when I got it out of the guy's shop, got it home, I pulled the carpet up out of the floor, and there was the ground. You could just see right through it. There was no floorboards, nothing. So here's a picture of what it looked like when I got finished. And it was 5 years worth of work. It was just me getting started in the hobby and learning as I went. That's how I learned to weld, how I learned to do all sorts of stuff. And I just figured out that you got to just try it to learn. And the best thing for me to do was to try with a cheap car, which that Spitfire was. But that's what got me enough money I made off of it to get into this 66 Mustang along with another car. Here's some pictures of what the Spitfire looked like when I got it and how far down I had to take it, all the way down to every nut and bolt almost off of it. The frame had to be twisted and straightened, which I didn't have anybody do that, so I did it the old-fashioned way, stuck it between 2 trees and a pole and twisted it till I got it all straight and built it all back up to new condition. That's just how I learned. So here's a picture of it after it was finished. Got to put it on the cover of a parts catalog, and so that's what got me interested in the hobby. Well, I finally have all this stuff ready to paint. Got it all sandblasted. It doesn't look like very much, but that took a very long time. Sandblasting is so tedious. It just takes forever to get every little bitty tiny piece of paint off. So got the battery tray, oil pan. I think the only thing I've got here that's going to be blue is the oil pan. Everything else will be black. So I'm going to clean this stuff up. It's got all the kind of residue from sandblasting on it, like the dust and all that. So I'm going to go outside, blow it all off, and then wipe it down with wax and grease remover and get it ready to hang it up and get ready to paint it. Welcome to the hanging gardens of Mustangalon. Here they all are, hanging up. Still got to get them clean, and then I'll be ready to paint them. Okay, now everything's nice and clean. Time to start priming. Should do 2 coats of primer, I think, and 2 coats of black. Okay, here they are all painted. Harmonic balancer, fan blade, alternator bracket, smog bracket, and all the pulleys, battery tray, more brackets. So we'll let that dry overnight, and tomorrow we'll get all that down, and then we'll get the oil pan over here and get it painted, and then it is back to this. Have to try to get that the rest of the way sanded down, ground down, and try to get as much paint off as possible, then tape it up and get it painted. Okay, I got the oil pan ready to paint. It's all clean. Had to weld up a couple little cracks on one side, which is no big deal. Not in the actual pan down below, but right here in these corners on both sides had little cracks. Welded that, and now it is ready to paint. I've about got this bad boy ready for paint. It's about all the paint I can get off of it off. It's not in some spot where I can't reach, but I've got it all clean, and I'm getting ready to start taping. I got a lot to tape. I got to tape the heads up around the valves, clutch, bell housing, and the transmission. I got to get it all covered in plastic, and then I've got bolts sticking in every hole. It's got a thread that I'm just gonna spray to keep the threads clean from paint. I got to tape up the areas where the exhaust manifolds bolt up, the area where the fuel pump connects right there, and it's just going to be a lot of taping. So, and I really want to leave the distributor in there so I don't have to retime everything. So I'm going to try to leave that in there and tape up around it, and so I can just spray around it. And I'm not going to respray the intake, since I just did that not too long. Okay, finally got this thing ready to paint. Next step is to set up the time lapse, and I'll start priming it, and then I'll go through with the blue. Okay, I've got 2 coats of primer on there. It's hard to get all the nooks and crannies, but I'm going to let that dry for probably 15 minutes or so. And then I'll start in with the blue. Looks like it needs to go on a battleship or something right now. Well, we're finally done painting. All the coats on there. Everything looks good, and I don't see any runs. Things nice and blue. Definitely a blue engine. And if you're wondering, this isn't the old light Ford blue that you see in later models. This is a 66. They still use the dark blue. This might be the last year that they used that. So it'll look a lot better once we start getting it all unwrapped. We'll do that tomorrow morning after it dries. Hopefully there's nothing peels off when we peel off the tape. Okay guys, it's the next day. Everything's dry. We'll start de-taping this thing and getting all that stuff off, bolts out, and see how it looks when we start seeing something other than blue. Yep, there it is, all unwrapped. All the bolts taken back out, the thread protector bolts. Never saw any runs or anything. It looks good. So now we gotta start doing some stuff like cleaning up the fuel pump, get it all nice and clean, shiny, and reinstall it. Reinstall the oil pressure sensor. I've already got it all cleaned up. Probably the harmonic balancer, go ahead and put it on. Then we'll have to decide how to paint the bolt that goes up in there after we get done torquing it. So I hate to paint it first and then just scratch all the paint off. I was getting ready to start putting pieces back on this thing, and I just can't do it. I really need to give another coat on that, or a coat to replace the one I did like a year ago on that intake. It's just too much of a color difference, and I'm afraid when I get it all back in there, I'm not going to be happy with it. And at the same time I did that intake, I did these valve covers. So it's hard to see. I don't know if you can see it very well on the camera, but they are just a little bit off shade. It's the same paint, but over a year the paint has changed a little bit. So I am going to go ahead and take these valve covers off and tape back up again and just leave that intake open, get it all taped, and then spray it. I gotta scuff it up first, I guess. I'm gonna use a 3M pad here, scrape it up, just kind of get some of the shine off of it so it can accept the paint again. And then we'll spray it again. So that's gonna put me behind. Sorry guys. Alright guys, I've got this ready to paint. All I gotta do is finish wiping it down with wax and grease remover, and it should be ready to spray, but it's gotten late on me and it's already 9:30 and way past my bedtime. So I'm going to sign off, and I thank you guys for watching and catch you on the next episode.
And always remember, don't retire it if you can rebuild it. Thanks so much guys for tuning in and watching this week's episode of Rebuild It. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any awesome content. Have a good one.